I even increased the time on my countdown, and I still missed it. I still missed it. Oh, kids are asleep making phone calls. We'll try to keep it down. What have I missed? Ian's here. Crystal Briar's here. Underpope's here. Kids Are Asleep is here. Hey, tree lobsters. Yeah, so... Hi. Hope you can't hear the fan. It's very, very warm here. Oh, T's here. Hey, T. Congratulations. Oh. No, I mean, you can talk about it. I was just kind of baffled. I'm assuming you're talking about RavenCon. I got a message yesterday saying that the RavenCon guest of honor had dropped out, and they wondered if I could come in at the last minute. So, yeah, so I said yes. Because, as my husband reminds me, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. And the Fump is here. Wow. And the Fump will be at RavenCon, so that's me and Devo Spice in Richmond, Virginia at the end of April. So that should be fun. But, yeah, I promised I would tell people and spread the word. Also, Nicole Glover's going to be there, and we've interviewed her before, so I'm going to be glad to see her. And one of my students from Stone Coast will be there. And T, are you going? I didn't see your name on the list, but I wasn't looking too closely. The only thing I'm worried about is the fact that I have, I'm doing not only 2 cons back to back, but 2 guests of honors back to back, which, sounds a lot like my diamond shoes are too tight, but regardless, it is being very much on for 2 weekends in a row, and that might be exhausting, but we shall see. Yeah, Ian, that's one reason why I don't like this time of year. It's like, during the day it can get up into summertime heat, but then at night it's still cold. Testing if my VPN was blocking me from sending. No. Or maybe it is not now. Crap. I may be getting a call. We'll see. It looked like a butt dial, but it was from somebody important, so if they call back, I'm going to need to take it. Cool. 40-degree temperature drop. Yeah, we had one of those last week. Anyway. I probably will try not to talk about this when we're officially doing the podcast, but I think this week I realized that a lot of emotions like grief go deeper than conscious thought. So I'm not being sad about my dog all the time, but I can still feel like waves of depressive symptoms coming, and it's been really irritating because I would expect if I were thinking and moaning about it all the time, I would be feeling bad, but I kind of, my brain's like, okay, well, it was very sad, I miss her, we can move on. But physiologically, it's not. It's not happening. So I'm just trying to be good to myself and not put a whole bunch of stresses on me. So yeah, we can get started. I think I'm bringing that up in part to apologize for being a little low energy today. Wondering if you should show up for RavenCon since it's relatively nearby. I mean, I'd like to see you, tree lobsters. Yeah, so we'll get started. I'm going to be hopefully talking about characters today. Hopefully, if you have any questions about characters, get them. put them in the holster. Okay. I Should Be Writing, Season 22, Episode 9. And hi there, welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers, and I am your host. Did I say coast? I'm your host, Mur Lafferty. I think I might have said coast because I was thinking about when I opened Escape Pod, and I'm a co-editor there, so... But still there, I'm the host when I'm hosting. I don't know. Anyway. This is a podcast about writing, or more about writers, or more about creative people. What I realized many, many years ago is that writers, and I guess a lot of other creative people too, will put any sort of roadblock in their own way, and will allow that thing that they created to slow them down. And that's why I have this podcast, to tell people, maybe don't do that. Also to tell people, we all feel it. So I've discovered that my worst feelings come when I feel like I'm alone. When I first lost the Astounding Award, I felt so low. And my husband had to remind me at the after party, like, look around. Nearly everybody in this room lost tonight. That actually helped me. I didn't feel like I was the only loser. So, it's a weird thing. But I often feel the imposter syndrome, rejection is going to definitely end everything. I feel it all, and then I move past it and I get back to work. Speaking of work, I edited and re-released the part 2 of my Zesty Ya Boy series. I'm writing a noir detective story about a sentient Venus flytrap. And I got part 1 is pruned, part 2 is beheaded. And that is live to Patreon supporters right now. But that's what I got working on. Yeah, imposter syndrome is really interesting. It's a very interesting phenomenon. But as I mentioned earlier in the stream, which will be cut out of this final recording, I'm feeling a little low this week. If you're caught up with the podcast, you know I had a loss a couple of weeks ago that really kind of was surprising. And while my logic brain says I should be picking up and moving on, my subconscious is kind of dragging its feet. So I'm trying here, really. But today I want to talk about characters, and specifically when they behave badly. If you don't know my history, I wanted to be a writer my whole life. I studied in college, and then when I left college, I stopped. The many reasons I stopped are ridiculous, but they happened, and it's part of my history. So, during that time, I was in a very, I guess, zero-sum game that's like doing X makes you a writer. So if you don't do X, if you do Y, Z, or F, or B, or 2, or 7, then you're not a writer. And one of those things is I've had a very, very dominant personality friend who was talking about her stories and her career and how she had the characters in her name, characters named and quote unquote living in her head and talking to her and won't let her sleep until she writes their story. And I thought, well, I don't hear that. I've never heard that. So clearly my brain is not working as a writer's brain works, because what she's going through sounds a lot more like what a writer would have happening in their brain than me. And of course I was wrong. we're all different and we can all do this differently. The end result might look the same. We all have a book or a short story. But getting there is, I'm not going to say unique because that's an awful lot of different ways, but there are lots of different ways to get there. But it's the fact that I've heard this said by different people that their characters, won't let them sleep and won't and talk to them all the time and tell their story to the person. And I guess it's been enough time. I don't know. I interviewed somebody past couple of years, and they started talking about how if you have characters in your head, then you ethically owe it to them to put out their story. And I'm like, should I tell her they're not real people? No, I'm just the interviewer. I'll just let her go. I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but I was just smiled and let her keep talking about her writing process. These real people that we're letting suffer if we don't tell their story. I don't know. Characterization is always something that's difficult for me. I worry they all sound alike. I worry that some of them aren't well fleshed out enough. And in talking, I remember that you're not always the best judge of your own work because the professor? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. I told you, I'm a little weak today, and I mean that literally. My editor, I was complaining to her, I was saying that I was going to beef up one of the characters on my next draft because I wasn't satisfied with his portrayal. And she's like, no, I love that character. You did fine. And that was weird for me to hear because it's like I will look at my stuff and think, okay, well, this book needs these fixes. Checking in with chat. Ian works as an electrical engineer and went to school for journalism. Imposter syndrome is something I know well. Yes. Daniel's here. Hey, Daniel. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. And Crystal Bar says, nobody living rent-free in my head is owed anything. Yeah, I'm kind of on your... I'm kind of with you. And I think one of the biggest problems is, for me, is making sure every character sounds different. Like, if you could go through your story and cut out every single he said, she said, Bob said, Kathy said, and just had the dialogue like a script, could you tell who said what? And that is the challenging thing. I find myself, I get a lot of inspiration from other pieces of media. I get inspiration from computer games and books and TV and movies, and I wonder about the people who say that they want to remain pure and not do too much fiction reading or watching or genre stuff while they're creating, because that makes me feel like my head's just this big vacuum. And if everything I'm writing contains part of other things that I've read, then I'm just being honest, because other people, stuff in the media affects you. You can't deny that. My favorite exercise to start separating the people and their voices is to go by the water test. And this is something I've mentioned before, but I've never told you guys where it came from because it happened to me. I was actually out with friends one night I was pregnant, which isn't really important, but it just increases the vulnerable feeling that you get when you get ice water dumped on you. So I think it was not someone spilling on me, but it was, I don't remember. Let's just say it was spilled on me. So I had ice water spilled all down my back, and it was awful. But it was it's such an honest moment. It's such an honest shock where I can't mask or consider other people's feelings. It's really just a reaction. And it sounds like I'm really building up to me being an absolute jackass to somebody, which I wasn't. But it felt like my gut reaction was just discomfort and confusion, which fits. It fits me. But it's, but I always think about the other kind of people and what would happen if they got water dumped on them. Would they get angry? Would they help clean up? Would they calmly ask to speak to the manager? Would they blame their date? And what kind of really honest reaction comes out? I think about this when they get really upset and then they use an ethnic slur. And they're like, oh, that wasn't me, I was just upset. And I'm like, when you're like that, you are your most genuine self because you don't have time or the mental capacity to think about ethics or kindness or racism. So if something bad happens to you and you just start going into the ethnic slurs, yes, that is you. That is prime. That is you, prime. Is prime the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I'm just saying whenever anybody says that they said those words because they were upset and they weren't thinking, I'm like, if you aren't thinking and those are the words that are the first ones to grab, look in the mirror. If you weren't going to fire that bullet, why was it loaded in the chamber? Thank you, Daniel. That is a much more succinct way to say it. That's perfect. Yeah. Oh, Space Valkyries is here. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. I could never just not read while I'm writing because I'm always writing something or juggling various ideas, so I never consume any other media. Yeah. Hi. Yes, glad to have you. Everybody follow Space Valkyries and the Fump and Kids Are Asleep and the T-Monster. I could do a shout out, but I suppose I have to, yeah, I'd have to focus on that instead of you guys. But going back to it, maybe your character is somebody who would say something terrible like that. I find a flaw I have with early characters, well, the characters in early drafts, is there may be a conflict outside of my characters, and they all want to work together to fix it. And I think the thing that got me out of this, besides a second draft and an editor saying, can please not everybody get along, was Stranger Things. And I find Stranger Things so fascinating because the protagonists all formed their own little clubs. And they all wanted to do the same thing. Maybe go about it different ways, but it's like all of it is like, bad stuff's happening, we have to stop it. But the kids, the parents, or the older people definitely don't want the kids doing it. And the teenagers don't want them doing it. And the parents don't want the teenagers doing it. So all of them want the others to not try to solve the problem. So I just found that was a really interesting storytelling way to go about having a whole bunch of people fight an evil, but still have conflict between them because they didn't want the other people to fight the evil. Usually because of, worried about people they love. But it was a definite, different approach to conflict than I'd really seen before. And I've tried to figure out how to bring that into my stuff. Not, a one-for-one thing, but to remember that even if people are going for the same thing, they could be going for different reasons. They could be going in a different way. They could be I don't know. I'm sorry. I did not make that note finished, but the deal is that we get to the point where everybody is the star of their own story. And a lot of people miss this when it comes to, say, romance or putting a romance in your story. Because the other person is not just, I am love interest. Slap me into love interest thing. I recently rewatched Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield and Terry Farrell from Deep Space Nine and the kid from Christine. Yes, Christine. And her role is, I am love interest. There's even at the end of the movie, it's so bad, where he finally confesses his love for her in this long rambling stream of consciousness. And she laughs and she says, you know what? I think that's the most words you've ever said to me at one time. I love you too. I'm like, how did you fall in love with him if that's the most words he ever said to you? You had very few conversations with him, and one of them when he was really drunk and belligerent. But no, I am love interest. I slot into here. So, yeah, if you want a sign of what not to do, the movie's funny. A lot of it is Rodney Dangerfield one-liners, but it's got Kurt Vonnegut in it, and you can't beat. Oh, and Danny Elfman. So, but just remember that the romance is weak, so very weak. But you got to remember, everybody's the hero of their own story. Sometimes, like if you're writing about kids, let's take Galaxy Quest. One of the biggest hiccups at the climax is because the kid had his own life. And his own life was his mom about to beat his butt for not taking the trash out. And so whatever he wanted to do to help the really big galactic problem, he had his own conflicts he had to deal with. And that really made the movie funny and gave a different look at those people. So when you're making your characters, they need to have their own lives. They need to have their own goals. Their goals are probably going to line up or directly oppose your other characters, or else they're not going to end up in the same story. But it's like, I keep coming up with just descriptions of other media. In Baldur's Gate, you have the opportunity to free a caged, mighty, mighty magical being. And I'm thinking, all right, cool. Well, now that you're free, will you help me with this awful, awful world-ending problem we're dealing with? And she's like, nah, I'm going to go hang out here and kiss on my girlfriend. Which, I knew they couldn't give me her as a companion because she was just far too powerful. But it was funny that they decided that this woman had been caged for 100 years and she didn't even know her girlfriend was alive. And so she's back. Yeah, you go save the world. I got some kissing to catch up on. Kissing on girlfriend is important, but that's my point, is that she had her own story and her own priorities. And yeah, she might help you at the end if you call on her and you want her to help, but really, she's got her priorities, and that is girlfriend. I think one thing that I felt was weak in um, my first series, the Shambling Guides, one of the few, I got like lots of starred reviews to start out with, and the one bad thing people found was the romance was weak, and I'll buy that. I just feel very awkward writing romance. And it's like by the end of book 2, I had the characters both with such bad problems to deal with that they couldn't be each other's supporting character, and I couldn't see a way they could stay together. Because you want to help your significant other with problems, and if your problem is the same gargantuan size as theirs, then you might want them to help you out. But whose story is it? So I think that was possibly a early storytelling mistake on my part. I don't know. But I didn't get another book, so we didn't get to explore that relationship any further. And I think sometimes people say that the reason why I said this podcast was called When Characters Behave Badly is some people say a character did something they didn't expect, and now they don't know where the story's going. And that, I can believe that a little bit more than something being in your mind or somebody talking to you in your mind. But I think when that happens, it's a sign that there's something broken earlier. And you need to go back and figure out whether that character's the one you want to carry that part of the story forward, or that you haven't fleshed out who they are quite yet. Or maybe, on a positive note, you got a better sense of who the characters are and what they're going for, and the situation and conflict is not quite matching the character itself. Still, that's something to fix on edits. I don't usually recommend new writers to go back and edit before they're done, because ending a book is very important. We have an ad break. I'm going to pause here then and get some water. Apparently Tim Tebow's hawking Duracell. Is he still playing football? I guess not. Ad's done. Thank you, Ian. I've been editing the videos for the Patreon. I might put them up on YouTube later. A whole bunch of people cold call me and tell me that I need to be putting my stuff on YouTube. And I should totally believe them. But the thing I get is that when I started streaming 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I remember people saying you need to, put googly eyes or something right under your camera so you're looking in their eyes. And I just got in the habit of looking in the camera lens. But when I'm editing my video, I look like I'm looking a little bit above, like I'm just staring off into space. And that doesn't feel right, because I really am looking into the lens, but it doesn't look like that. So I don't know where to look anymore. Maybe if I put two googly eyes right here. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Who knows? Anyway, ads are done. So we're back. Now if I can just remember what I was saying. Right. Don't edit while you write. Pretty much. That's just it. If you are a beginner. If you're not a beginner and you have finished something, then maybe you'll find the better way you can edit as you go. I guess enough people still know who he is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could pick him out of a lineup. Some people are just very boringly attractive and they don't stick in my head. Like the guy who was Green Arrow, I called him Blandsome because, yeah, he was an attractive man, but it's like I could never point him out on the street. He just looked like a Ken doll. He was a handsome man. I have that problem with Lady Gaga too. I'd never recognize her. And I'm not even face blind. I just don't know why she doesn't stick in my head. Green Arrow was the Batman show I didn't know I wanted and then stopped caring. Yeah, we enjoyed it at the beginning. Even though he was, kind of boring. Yeah, generic attractive man 34. Star Strider got a teleprompt that can display right above the camera so she can read text or chat while looking at the camera. Ew. I'll have to ask her where she got that. Honestly, I do get most of my character ideas from experiencing other pieces of media. And that makes me feel like I'm doing it wrong, but it works. So I keep doing it. And of course I change things. Of course. And I've done characters based on real people too. Really change those things too. But it's good for me to have a starting point. This is maybe a topic for a different show, but I keep falling into the trap of wanting to add unnecessary details for my characters, probably because I don't want them to be misunderstood from how I intend them to be. What do you mean, Daniel? Like, what is unnecessary details for your characters? Are we talking like physical appearance, backstory, weird hobbies? The weird hobbies thing is an interesting detail to give your characters because it sometimes amuses or confuses your audience because we all contain multitudes, as they say. And I hate referencing this guy's work, but we'll just say Terry Pratchett wrote this part, where in Good Omens, in the book, when they're talking about how the babies are being switched at the monastery or the nunnery, and they said you've got like the Antichrist, and then you've got the baby is going to be switched with the Antichrist, but they're switching them between three mothers, so there's a third one, or a third one comes in. Hell if I can remember. Anyway, there are three babies, and they say, and the narrator says, you don't want to know what happened to the third baby. How about we just say that the third baby went somewhere and got adopted and lived a normal life and developed a love for tropical fish? Because the truth is much worse. And then much later in the book, when the kids are meeting the bullies, they mention the fact that the main bully has a tropical fish hobby. And point out saying, remember we told you about that baby? Daniel says, things about them that don't necessarily matter to the story, mostly character quirks. Yeah, those are interesting. Kids are asleep. I find that I struggle to write a character until I unlock the thing that is sort of core component of their personality. Okay. I think it's mostly because I don't like to be misunderstood myself. But the quirks are interesting. They give a character depth. And it's like, have you ever met somebody that you either don't like, or your personalities clash, or they're clearly someone opposing you, whether it's Star Wars versus Star Trek or sports or something, but then you realize that you've got something else in common. And suddenly you can bond because you've got this weird thing in common. And that is something that you can put in your stories, because even if you throw that in there as an aside, something the character collected once, something that a place they visited a long time ago that they'd really like to get back to someday, that can come up elsewhere. If you've got, I visited Iceland when I was younger and I loved it, and that's all I say about Iceland. Then later on in the story, if you've got somebody saying something about Iceland, you can remember that, that character who's not even related to anybody else in this scene, but in the book, they might be able to tell us something about it. And then that creates a connection. And really, connections are what holds the characters together. I had a character that I thought I'd created from my imagination, and someone who'd read the book said, that's Aubrey Plaza, right? Piazza? I don't know who that is. That was Tree Lobster saying that. Daniel, I just say don't worry about adding too many details. Add as many details as you want and fix it on edits. Really, because it's easy for me to say this because I have the opposite problem, that I don't write enough. But it's like, for me, it's like, wow, if I've got too many words, then I can just pick what to cut out. Whereas when I write 75,000 words and I'm supposed to be turning in 100, I've got some work to do. Crystal Briar says, I have a favorite male character of my own characters, and I struggle to keep all my other male characters from being him. Yeah. Oh, Parks and Rec. Okay, thank you. I'd never watched all of those, but I've seen enough things in pop culture to at least recognize the characters, even if I don't remember their names. There should be a forum where people just swap personal quirks for character inspiration. I don't know if there's a forum, but there's a lot of good books out there. Let me find it. Because again, this feels like something that I shouldn't need, but once I found it really useful. And who cares how you get to the book as long as you're not stealing from somebody else. Just give me a sec to find. Okay, so Angela Ackerman, damn it. Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. Anyway, they've written several Thesauri. And they just do... I started with there's negative traits and positive traits where, you'd think, why would I need that? And then you look and they give in-depth detail as to all of these traits, and they mention what traits from other people will work well and work directly against this character. And they have like 10 or 11 of these books. I haven't read them all, but there's the Emotional Wound Thesaurus, Occupation Thesaurus, Rural Setting Thesaurus. So, there's just lists of setting helpful things and character helpful things. And then Conflict Thesaurus, which I own, but I haven't read yet. So you can go in and you can go into these books and pretty much find some stuff that helps build your characters up. But I think the thing that helped me the most is remembering that every character is the star of their own story. You don't have to tell that story. That's not your job. That would be exponentially, that would make your book grow exponentially. And you don't want that. But just remembering that, hey, my best friend can't come help me with this world ending problem because they went out of town to their aunt's. And that's their priority in life. Or if not their priority, it's their priority to obey their parents when their parents say, we're going to go visit the aunt now. Or you have to go, you have to take the trash out now. And then also figure out what they'd do if they got a bunch of cold water dumped on them. And if they were pregnant at the time. So let me know if you guys have any other questions. I'm sorry I'm a little off today. If you are just joining us or joining us in the last 15 minutes or so, I've just had a low energy week. I'm trying to come out of it, but you can't brute force these things as much as you try. So, I'll remind people I am going to be guest of honor at RavenCon at the end of the month. And I will be, then the next weekend, I'll be guest of honor at DemiCon, which is in Des Moines. RavenCon is in Richmond. And yeah, that's going to be a whole lot of unexpected work. Well, the first one will be. The second one I've known about. But I think I might finally be getting my feet under me with how to be a guest of honor, because no one tells you how. One of these years I will get down to RavenCon. Make it this year! Come on, you got a month to prepare. What do you have to do? School? Work? Yeah. Never mind. Oh, I will say one thing. I keep getting emails from, SEO people. And it's so funny. I don't know who put me on what list. But, like, I am pretty much a one-woman show. You know, my assistant helps me out with a couple of things, and, my kid's an artist, so I hire them when I need new art. But really, when it comes to promotion and hosting and interviews and all that stuff, that's all me. And some people come to me like I'm an actual company that can afford their $150, $2,000 a month service. And it is baffling. I tried to follow one thing today, and I might be able to have to afford their like beginner thing, but unfortunately it's $17 a month and you have to pay up front for a year. That's how they get you. And that one's actually affordable. I just don't know if I want to afford it. It's all SEO and marketing, and I hate it. But I realize that there are lots of people who don't think like you and I do, and they're thinking that the large language model AI stuff is the best thing since sliced bread. And now search engine optimization people are going, okay, well, so when the large language model searches, here's what it goes for. And I'm like, well, crap. I don't want to play in that sandbox, but I might have to. So, I'm just kind of pontificating whether I'm going to dump the money into this, because I don't know. My biggest problem is I feel like you watch the show for one thing, or you listen to the show for one thing, and am I going to be using those keywords every single episode? I don't know. As far as I know, I've got nothing going on this Saturday at RavenCon. If I'm feeling ambitious, I might just drive over and get a badge at the door. How far away are you, Tree Lobsters? Anyway, the reason why I thought of that is I know that Space Valkyrie is studying marketing. So if you know any SEO tricks, Space Valkyries, I'll be happy to hire you. I'm just hoping it's not going to be like, $1,000 a month and I pay for the whole year at once, because I can't do that. But if you have questions about characters or anything, let me know. I'm here for you. And if you're listening to this later and you've got questions, you can let me know in email, and I'll answer it on the next stream, or I'll answer it in email, whatever you want. SEO, my beloved, yes. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's something that I don't quite understand, because how many times can I write advice for writers on this? How many different ways can I do it? But a little bit of housekeeping. I have oh my god, you guys know I've worked so hard on getting the archives up and running, and I'm trying to release them a little bit at a time, and I release a free episode with each one. So if you're interested in the episode, you can go buy the whole season itself if you don't want to be a Patreon supporter, or you could just support via Patreon and get all of them. The problem is, Patreon does not yet have a good way of organizing your store page. And so stuff will go up for sale, I guess, in the order that you put it up. And you can't backdate it in order to get things in line. So even though I've tried to backdate to get things in order, when you go to my shop page on Patreon, it's just a mess of what you can buy and where to find them. And it's just, I think I'm going to make a couple of posts to say it's neat here, and then I'll link to other things. But it's what I'm trying to say is, you can go to my Patreon and buy the archives. It's just a little hard to look at right now. I'm really hoping they fix it. But for now, it's you'll see season 5, and then season 12, and then season 1, and it's a big mess. You can also purchase my Zesty Boy Chronicles, which is my sci-fi noir sentient Venus flytrap story. And yeah, I've got some novellas and stuff over there. But you can find all my other stuff there. You can find books to buy, books to listen to, and my other podcasts. I am the co-host and co-editor of Escape Pod, which is in its 21st year. Yeah, we're in our 21st year of science fiction, over 1,000 episodes, and they're all free. And Valerie in chat is my co-editor. Much more organized than I am. It me, yes, it you. I think Ursula is busy this coming Monday. I'll see if she's available on the next one, which will be like the 13th or so, I think. And then, but I'll be back next week. I'll be doing podcasts all month until the end of the month, which is when I'm going to Demicon. So that Thursday, the April 30th, I'll be going to Demicon. So no stream that day, but hopefully we'll get at least one Ditch Diggers in this month, and we'll keep doing I Should Be Writing, and hopefully my brain will catch up and kind of get its act together, and I will give you a podcast with a little bit more energy next time. That's the challenge. And that's the good thing and bad thing about streaming is, like, well, I got to stream, so I got to record, and that helps me get something out. But when energy's low, it's bad. Or worse than I want it to be. Because I'm sure somebody out there is going, don't be hard on yourself. I'll just say, it's worse than I want it to be. Thank you, Crystal Breyer. But, yeah, I'm gonna head out. I think I said all my things. And really, you guys should be writing. Because, I know I should. And last month, or last Ditch Diggers, Ursula yelled at me until I said I would write weird things. And I'm writing weird things. There is no timeline and it will randomly hit you like a piano dropped from a building. Yes. Yes, I'm getting that. It's like looking at Instagram and hoping I'll get K-pop and getting We Rate Dogs instead. And then suddenly my face is leaking again. I don't cry a lot. It's really weird. But show me a damn dog. Bah, what am I doing? Zestia Boy. Yes, Zestia Boy is weird. And if you haven't read part 2, we get to meet a sort of a mafia doness, a mafia matriarch, who has no, she suffers no fools. Well, thank you guys for coming and hanging out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm going to play a game. I don't know what game, but I'm going to play one, damn it. I'm going to play it hard. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate the company. It makes it a lot easier. If I was just recording this on my own, it would probably be like 15 minutes, and then I would say sorry and then get off. So having people here to talk to is so much better. But I think T is online, so he is... I don't know what he's doing, but we'll go see T. Looks like he's doing more ghost hunting stuff. Oh, new paranormal footage. So he's editing ghost hunting stuff. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. And I can Twitch. Alright. The raid call is #merraid. Be as awesome as you are over there as you have been over here. Be as awesome over there as you are over here, I think. The verb was in the wrong place. But anyway. And I'll be back next Thursday with more... yeah, with more podcasty stuff. Hopefully we'll keep my brain together and have better stuff to talk about. But y'all get to writing, okay?